My name is Shelby. Welcome back to Seeds to Garden. Today I just want to take you guys all out on a journey with me around the homestead to see what we've been up to. There's been a lot of changes, a lot of updates, a lot of progress being made, and I feel like I've kind of been so busy I really haven't been able to document much of it. So we're just going to take a walk and I'm going to walk you through a bunch of stuff, and it's just kind of going to be like a little bit of like a vlog today of catching you up on what we've been doing. So take a walk with me. Let's go check out the garden. We're in the garden. So some things that you probably haven't seen are the updates on how the plants that we planted are doing. The last time I think I updated you guys, we had just talked about how we got a frost and they weren't looking the best, and so we were trying to give them a little bit of TLC and hopefully they would bounce back. So good news is they look like they're bouncing back, which is awesome. This is actually the first time that I'm getting back out to the garden. Last night we were supposed to get cold temperatures again, so it got down to 33, and 32 is freezing around here. So hopefully they're going to be okay. We're just going to check them out and hopefully they did good. Starting out here is our broccoli. It does look like I might have got a little bit. This is new because I did pluck off all the other dead leaves that we had. This is old damage, so he was actually in the healing process. So it looks like it was just that one plant that might have sustained a little damage last night. But we did come out and we watered everything heavily to make sure that they had a fighting chance. Looks a little bit of damage here. So I'm just gonna pluck that off because what I don't want is for that plant to try and put any kind of energy back into those leaves. So we're just gonna, it looks like these guys did have a little bit more damage. So we're just going to pick those clean. And let me tell you guys, it is still windy and cold. Like, I'm regretting not bringing a jacket. New news, so our potatoes have started to pop up. I believe these are our red Pontiac potatoes. So we've got some popping out here. This is what fresh potato seedlings look like. And they did awesome in the overnight with the frost. We also have tons of asparagus. I'm gonna have to pluck some of these today. I'm so super excited. If you've never had fresh asparagus out of the garden, it is the absolute best. We have purple asparagus coming up as well. If you've never had fresh asparagus out of a garden, you are missing out. I never would have thought that I could eat asparagus raw, and I definitely couldn't if it was store-bought. However, fresh out of the garden asparagus, you know how at the store you usually have to cut the bottom ends off because they're pretty tough and hard to eat? Not with fresh asparagus. This, you can eat the whole stalk. It is so tender and delicious. I don't even think, my husband and I joke all the time, we're never actually going to get any of this asparagus in the house. We're going to end up eating it as we pick it. I will save some for him. This is the first time we're actually able to pick our asparagus because it usually takes about 2 to 3 years to get a sustainable plant. And then it is a perennial, so it'll come back every year. You just want to make sure that you stop harvesting it a little while right before it's supposed to seed, so that way you do get another plant next year. So usually the first year you can pick, or the first 2 years you don't pick them at all. The third year you lightly pick them, and by the 4th or 5th year they should be pretty sustainable as long as you stop picking them. I think it's like a month or 2 before they go to seed. So we are on our 3rd or 4th asparagus so far this year, and none of them have made it into the house. So let's talk about what else we have going on here. Okay, so this is our Brussels sprout and onion bed, and these are doing absolutely amazing. These onions have greened up so well. The Brussels sprouts don't look like they really sustained much damage last night, so that's good. They're still kind of trying to bounce back, but they look much, much greener than they did initially. So that bed looks good. This bed looks even better. Look how good these onions are. They are standing tall and green and proud. These Brussels sprouts look good too. This guy I'm a little worried about. He's just very small, but I think he's doing okay. And then we have some onions in the back bed here. I don't know how easy they are to see. These haven't quite greened up as much as the ones in the Brussels sprouts. We have that is a shallot popping up. Shallot popping up. These are weeds. But I'm not sure if that is because they don't have the companion of a Brussels sprout, or if it's just because they're a different variety. These are the Walla Wallas, and for some reason the Walla Walla starts that we got were so much smaller than the sweet whites that we got. So I'm not sure if that has a factor to do with it, but they definitely are much smaller. Just do some weeding while you check out your garden. So that's the garden that's out here. That's one update I wanted to give you guys. Another update is about those garden beds that I shot a video on. I don't know I'm not sure what time I'm gonna get that video up, if it's before or after this video, but basically I decided I needed way more garden space than what I had, and I wanted to do it for cheap. So there is a DIY video coming up of how to get your own raised beds that are cedar 3x6 foot beds for $30 each. Yeah, $30, pretty crazy. So I'm really excited to show you guys that video, but I will show you the result of that video and all the beds that we did. I ended up creating 5 more beds. We just got them all filled with dirt, so this weekend we're going to be planting out the rest of the crop. I was going to do it last weekend, but then when we saw that this weather forecast was going to be iffy, I'm hoping that this coming weekend, the next 10-day forecast looks more promising so that we can get the rest of the sprouts out. We have beans ready to go out, melons, things of that nature. I'm still going to wait on the tomatoes and the peppers because they really need warm weather and they're not quite big enough yet. So I am going to up pot them this weekend, but they're not coming out anytime soon. So let's look at the beds that I have. But here are one of the beds. So you'll see I left these posts on there, and that is simply for a few reasons. One, we can add some kind of cover to it if need be, if we have a frost or something of that nature. If we want to do some kind of netting over it, maybe the bugs are getting to it. If we need to do some kind of trellis, we have a base to attach it to. So I really like this idea of just adding these extra poles here just as just in case sort of thing. And then I did also drive the poles a little past so that we could dig them into the ground. Just got more of this ground cover in, so we're going to be expanding the garden bed ground cover as well. Here's another one of those beds, so that's 2. The other 3 are out front. And then the 2 beds I had here, as well as there was a bed next to our chicken coop as well that they were playing in. But now that they have so much extra free ranging space, I grabbed that bed back. So what we did was we tacked it on to the end of our asparagus beds. So I have this one here that was out front, and then we have 2 down there. This one needs a little bit of a repair, but those last 2 do need some more soil before I can plant them up. But I believe in these 3 I'm going to be planting our cabbage as well as any kind of overhang. So I think I'm going to try and put one of our artichokes out here because he's a perennial as well. I have to research artichokes a little bit because this is my first year planting one, and I know that they're a perennial in some zones, and I believe we're on the outskirts of that zone. It's like zone 7 through 10, and we are zone 7C. So we're in that zone, but it's kind of on the outskirts. So if we have a really harsh winter, I don't know if he'll make it through that winter time, so I'm not entirely sure what I want to do yet. I want to look at their root system and see how deep of a root they have, if they would benefit to just staying in a pot and I could just kind of bring them in the winter time. I don't plan on having more than one artichoke. They usually get pretty big, and we only use it for spinach and artichoke dip usually. So this would just prevent me from having to purchase any artichokes at the store. So I really don't need a ton. We don't eat artichokes otherwise. Unless you have some good recipes, pop them in the comments below. But I'm still not sure what I'm doing with that artichoke yet. He might end up in a pot, or he might end up in that garden down there. I know we're switching gears a little bit, but so these are our layer chickens, and I believe I mentioned that this is our chickshaw that we're going to be using for our meat poultry. So we actually use this temporarily for the 4 layer hens that we have, because our hope is to be able to get them to work the ground, to be able to use this as our corn planting zone. So they did an awesome job of really ripping up this ground. There is no more grass. It is all dirt. They've fertilized it for us. So this is awesome. We've got lots of dirt here to work with. We did move them forward, A, so they can have more grass, and B, so they can work on the next section of grass. I do think that we might move them more to the right, because I think that's the way I want to go with the garden bed. But for now, we just pulled them forward so that they had somewhere to go. So once we get our meat poultry, and they are going to be coming out here permanently, we will move these guys back into their coop. But for now, they're really enjoying this outside time, and they've got their own little nesting box and water and food setups. They're really enjoying it out here, so we'll just let them do some work on the farm for us. Probably the most exciting update that I have for you. We got our first batch of meat poultry last week. So the only thing we got this past week were our 2 turkeys. But there's a bird flu going on right now that is wiping out the poultry industry. So we actually had a hatchery that we had ordered 20 meat birds from, and they had to call their flock. So we ended up having to order another set, so they'll be here next week instead. So although they're a little lonely in there, I think they're enjoying how much space they have. But we should be getting the rest of the 20 birds for the meat poultry this weekend. So tomorrow or Saturday we'll pick them up. And we're also going to get our first batch of layers. So there will be a ton more chickens in this brooder in just a few days. But for now, let's check in on these turkeys because they are so cute. You have to see them. Hi guys. So these are our 2 turkeys. They are already so big, only being a week old. Are you guys going to come see us? But we have, so they're outside. So we do have 2 heat sources right now, just simply because it was a little chilly the past few days. So we do have a regular like heat lamp. And then we also got this, it's like a heating element that they can walk underneath. It's not on a very high setting. We do have it on the lowest setting. And the big thing to remember with these is to make sure that their heads are not going to touch the top when they go under it. So I do think we're going to have to raise this up because they do look a little bigger than last week. But the reason why you have to worry about that is because chickens and roosters and turkeys are not the smartest, and they will just walk underneath it with their head up against it, and they can actually really hurt themselves. But it looks like they are ducking, so that's good. But some chickens are not that smart, and they will burn the tops of their heads. So, but they actually look like they're doing pretty good. So it's pretty exciting to have 2 meat poultry on the farm. This is also our first time ever having turkeys. So turkeys are super cute. Absolutely love them. I'm excited to see their life stages and how they grow, and of course, enjoy Thanksgiving dinner. So I'm not sure if we have boys or girls. It was a straight run. If we do get a boy and a girl, we might try and hatch out some eggs before Thanksgiving, just to kind of keep the meat bird population going, but if we don't, it's not a big deal. So let's check out the next thing that we did, and that is the grapes that we pruned. So we're over by the grapes now. This is our Concord grape. He is the most established grape that we have, and we just pruned him back so that you only want 2 main stems, and then all the rest of it is new growth every year. So we're already getting some buds on him. Hopefully this funky weather that we've been having doesn't mess him up too much, but we did get some wonderful grapes from him last year, and we tried to turn him into wine. This is one of our reds, and then we have a second red, and down here on the end, this funky guy. This is the 3rd or 4th time he was transplanted from one place to another. So he's just taking a little while to really sustain himself, but he did start taking off this year, so hopefully he does much better. We're also planning on adding an additional trellis for him to kind of expand. I'm also super excited about this raspberry. We need to do a little bit of TLC here because he is outgrown the space that we've even put him in at this point. So we're gonna have to either prune him back or pull the fence back, something along those lines, because he is just really going nuts. And this is, again, our first raspberry too, so he hasn't had any fruits last year. Hopefully he gets some this year. If he doesn't, I'm gonna guess that we're gonna have to prune him back because he's probably putting too many resources into his stems, and we can kind of coax him to put them into fruit. I don't know. I'm not going to talk too much about that because I don't really know much about raspberries. Most of the raspberries I've ever come in contact with were wild raspberries. Very delicious. This is the first domesticated raspberry bush I've grown. So kind of learning as I go, and I'll keep you guys updated along with me. Just heading out front now so that I can show you the rest of these cedar garden beds that we worked on. So here are the last 3 beds. So we just put them literally right out front our front door, and we did plant up the first batch. So this is all kale and spinach, and they're looking good even though we had a little bit of frost problems. They did yellow a little bit. I think they're just a little stressed from being planted and the crazy weather that we've been having. So, but I'm actually very happy they don't look like they got shocked too badly. And I did plant one other thing so far out here. And this is our strawberry that I transplanted to a garden bed. So he's doing awesome. So we just need to keep him happy and healthy, and hopefully he'll expand his wings. The plan with these garden beds out front, this is going to be a miscellaneous bed just for anything that's overhead that I run out of space for in the back garden. This year it just happened to be spinach and kale. That middle bed is going to be herbs. So I'm going to have like a pretty stable herb garden out front. I have one out back, but it's not very big, and my herbs can't really sustain themselves for year after year. And then the last bed is going to be mostly strawberries, but it will also be a place again for overhead. So things that do well with strawberries: bean plants, melons, celery. So anything that's kind of extra that does well with strawberries, I'll probably throw out here. This year I'll probably be putting some bush beans in here. I'm actually going to be planting some carrots out here as well because I just didn't have enough space in my previous beds. So that's what's happening out here. I may also, because the herbs won't be super sustained this year, I'm going to be putting some cuca melons across the back. We'll be adding a trellis to this. Ultimately, the goal is when it is winter time, I'll be able to cover these with plastic, and we might be able to have a winterized garden bed, especially with herbs, and then one bed to kind of plant whatever I feel I would like for the winter time. So this could be anything from carrots to Brussels sprouts to cabbage to broccoli, anything that's kind of cold tolerant, onions, potatoes. I could overwinter potatoes in here. So this is going to be a really awesome versatile bed that I can just kind of fill in as needed and be able to use through the winter months. This is my lettuce stack that I planted. So this has all of that specialty lettuce that I had seeded up, and they're doing absolutely awesome. I put them on wheels so that you can kind of just spin them around and you can water them all, but they all look so happy and healthy. We've already had 3 or 4 salads from them, so very excited to have this right outside my door as well. It looks like we do have some of our strawberries popping up as well, so we've got some flowers budding. It's looking really good. This needs to get weeded, so that is another thing that has to happen. One other area that we did some work on this past weekend, we did work on the pollinator garden a little bit. So we managed to weed everything as well as prune back our butterfly bushes, and this one specifically we had to stake back. He seemed to loosen his roots a little bit. He started falling over, so we did rebury him, kind of pack some nice new fresh dirt around him, and just give him a little TLC. So every so many days we're going to come out here and just kind of tighten that until he's more of an upright position. But that is what's happening with that butterfly bush. We did manage to weed all of the garden beds, and all this fresh new life is coming up. I will walk you through what's all in here at a later date when it's a little bit more in bloom and you can kind of see it, but we have lots of butterfly bushes in here. We have some lilies, some echinacea, some cosmos, some bee balm, all kinds of, we have pom-poms. Dahlias usually come up every year, so that's kind of what's in here. But this is, once this is in full bloom, it is beautiful. We have all kinds of monarch butterflies and bumblebees and honeybees, but everything's starting to come up in blooms. The last thing I'll update you on is kind of our seedling starts here. Hey y'all, so this is kind of like a day 2 because last night my phone died halfway through filming, so I'm just gonna try and pick up where we left off. But basically there's a bunch of stuff that was gonna go out last week, but we had this weird freak weather in the middle of the week, so I got scared and decided to hang on to them for another week just to prevent them from being frostbite. So I have lots of things that are way too tall and need to go out. I managed to up pot most of them, but all of this is mostly beans and borage, and we've got some leftover cauliflower and cabbage and things that need to go out. And then just some miscellaneous stuff for this weekend. I do need to up pot all of these tomatoes and peppers and separate them out because I have some that are duplicated. But they are not ready to go out yet. We're gonna put those out probably in another 2 weeks, just to make sure that the weather is good. I'm gonna look at the 10-day forecast, but hopefully the rest of this will get planted this weekend. And then on the bottom here, we have some cucumbers and melons and things of that nature. They're looking absolutely awesome. They're super strong and healthy. And then on this side, we have some more stuff. So this is celery, dark opal basil, some thyme, oregano, rosemary I replanted, dill, pumpkin, birdhouse gourd, sweet basil, lemon basil. I've replanted all of that because it didn't seem to come up last time. Super excited about this lettuce leaf basil. It is coming along so well. It smells so good. Excited to make some basil wraps with that. Also have some American Yard long cucumbers, opal basil, lemon balm, sweet basil, sage, cilantro. So that's kind of what we have kind of pending to go out. I'm hoping, like I said, to get most of that planted this coming weekend, as long as the 10-day forecast is cooperating. So I think that was everything for this video. Until next time, we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.